have subscribed to the Code of Ethics established by the Media Self-Regulation Council of Zambia, MSCZ. We value your feedback and take any concerns regarding our content or professional behavior seriously.
Hello there, it's a very good evening one more time. This is State of the Nation on the finest television, KBN TV. Thank you so much for choosing to keep us company wherever you may be catching us from. We are live on DSTV channel 279, on GoTV channel 27 and Topstar 102. And you can also follow the conversation on our YouTube channel. Just search for KBN TV there. And an alternative also is our Facebook page. So we bring to you multiple platforms through which you can follow the discussion. Tonight we are looking at the state of the Zambian economy. Where is the solution? That's the question that we pose. And my guest is no stranger to State of the Nation. This is the President of the Citizens First, who is also a Council of Presidents member of the United Kwacha Alliance. President Harry Kalaba is my guest. President Kalaba, welcome to State of the Nation.
Thank you very much for having me here on the State of the Nation. I'm happy to be here. And good evening, our viewers, wherever you're watching us from. It's good to be on the finest television. We have come to learn.
You look very smart and very presidential.
Thank you very much. I mean, that I take it as a compliment, and that you really mean the last part of being very presidential. I think we need to begin exercising what we are aspiring for.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I know our topic really is about the economy, but maybe before we go there, I was just watching pictures of our head of state. He has gone to attend the inauguration of the Namibian President Ndaitwa, which really, as it should be, and showing very good spirit of good neighborliness.
Well, I'll tell you that, first of all, congratulations to President Ndaitwa, because she was Foreign Affairs Minister with me. When I was Foreign Affairs Minister here in Zambia, she was Foreign Affairs Minister in Zimbabwe, in Namibia. I think she's risen through the political ranks to be where she is. Congratulations to her. And I think there's nothing wrong in our president going to attend that inauguration. As you rightly put it, it's in the spirit of good neighborliness that the president is there, and I think it is in order. But it's only sad that the president did not go to attend the funeral of Sam Nujoma, the founding father of Namibia. I think the president was busy with that Commonwealth lady in Wengo at the time, and he couldn't go to see off the gallant son of the SADC region and Africa as a whole. Well, it has happened, and I think we should understand that Namibia and Zambia are actually somehow intertwined. The Namibians are very close to Zambia. When they got their independence in 1990, it was the likes of the late Mkondo Lungu, who was our deputy speaker here, who had gone to Namibia to train the Namibians, and that is why even their number plates, here it is GRZ, there it's GRN.
Okay.
You know, and out of honoring the Zambians for the role that they played in their liberation struggle and in their independence, Zambian embassy carries number plate CD1 in Namibia, showing you that the close proximity that exists between the two countries is critical.
Right.
And so it is important for the future that events such as the ones that happened when the country was mourning, the president should have taken time to go there. And I know that he sent the Minister of Lands I don't understand why he sent the Minister of Lands, because he should have at least tried to send our honor the Vice President, who was here in the country, but he chose to send the Minister of Lands. I think that was also not appropriate. Yeah.
Right. So let's come back to the state of our economy, and we're asking a question: where is the solution? Now, first of all, before we delve into that, President Kalaba, some sections of society are bemoaning the state of our economy to the extent that they are even alleging that the noise about the proposed constitutional amendment could as well be an orchestrated, deflection to sway, people from real issues affecting the general populace. What's your view on this when you look at the state of our economy versus the focus of constitutional amendments?
It's honestly a very sad state of affairs for our country. We are at a time when the country is struggling with issues of fuel prices. We are at a time when we are struggling with load shedding. We are at a time when the country is struggling with fertilizer for our farmers. We are at a time when the country is literally struggling in all sectors of human endeavor in our country. And then all of a sudden, the president brings a discussion during Women's Day that we have agreed as a country that we are going to do amendments to the Constitution. I think those who are saying that this is supposed to act as a camouflage to the problems we're going through, I think are right. Why would anyone, in God's name, why would anyone want to begin talking about constitutional amendments 14 months before an election? In fact, it is 12 months, a year before an election, you begin talking about amending the Constitution, while remembering that this is the very Constitution which brought President Hakainde Hichilema into office. All of a sudden, the agency to change the Constitution has kicked in. It's a camouflage. They're trying to hide behind this confusion so that the Zambians can forget that the price of meal, which they had told us was going to be costing 50 kwacha, is not costing 50 kwacha. It is now costing 440 kwacha. It is an avenue for them to hide from the fact that we are told when they come into government, load shedding was going to finish in this country. Load shedding has continued. They told us that nobody should be load shedded. Today, we are still having 20 hours of load shedding. And that is a big challenge. So for me, clearly it shows you that our colleagues in government, their priorities are warped. They have not understood the challenges the people are going through in Karingaringa, in Misis, Mutendere, Kanyama, Linda, and all these compounds. They have not understood the challenges that our people are going through. So they bring in the issue of constitution because them they have eaten right now as we are speaking, and our people in the compounds want the prices of milk to go down. Our farmers, I was in Chipata, our farmers are talking about fertilizer, si kwana, si paka, bantuatenga fertilizer mameda. These are the issues that our people are struggling with. And to begin talking about constitutional amendments, honestly, is taking our people for a ride, and this must come to an end.
Right. Let's come to one of the major issues around the performance of the economy, and that's the issue of energy. I know that the Minister of Energy, Mr. Makozo Chikote, has written to you in response to your recent media interview where you expressively, or whether you extensively spoke about the current energy crisis that the nation is facing, and he has written to sort of justify why Zambia must continue to export power, while, as most people have cried and complained, most Zambians and businesses keep facing, this very excruciating load shedding. Having received and read that letter from the minister, I would like to assume you are obviously satisfied now with the government position as to why we should continue exporting.
No, Pastor, I'm not satisfied, and I must say that the minister said everything but said nothing. honestly speaking, first of all, the minister admitted that this government is still exporting power outside the country. He has not answered our problem. Our problem is that even as we are speaking now, you and I don't know, we might be talking to ourselves. Even as we are speaking now, we might be talking to ourselves. Because the majority of Zambians have been switched off. They are in darkness. Go to my compound, Linda, right now. People are in darkness. The government has continued to export power to Namibia. He did not dispute that fact. The minister did not dispute the fact that they have continued to export power to South Africa through the SADC Power Pool Agreement. He didn't refuse that they renewed the contract with the DRC Congo to continue supplying 120 megawatts of power. The minister did not refuse that this government is still exporting 50 megawatts of power to Malawi. Now, the question that begs an answer: why should the government that was voted for by the local Zambians here be exporting power to other countries when the local people are in darkness? And the minister there says in his statement, we are in fact importing more power than we are exporting. So if you are importing power, why should you be importing power when at the same time you are exporting power? He tries to say, no, we need to make sure that we continue servicing our debts and that kind of stuff. How does he know he will not raise the same amount of revenue that is getting by exporting our power if he sold the power locally? After all, you remember that government had increased the tariffs. And the reason they gave for increasing the tariffs was that people were going to have access to power for longer periods. The tariffs were increased, but up to now, people are still struggling with power. There are very few places in Lusaka or around Zambia that are having power for more than 4 hours. Very few. And this has gone on for a very long time. And the minister, even in his response, you can see how relaxed he is. Because people are taking people for granted. Zambians have accepted, they think. But this is how Zambians do behave. Come next year, the UPND will be punished. Because if I were a president, sir, pastor, there is no way I can export power to Namibia. Yes, we love the Namibians, but my first priority would be the Zambians who voted for me into office. And that's why we have said, when we come into government, if this trend will continue by the time we're coming in August next year, we are going to make sure that we stop exporting power immediately to Namibia. We'll stop exporting power immediately to South Africa. We'll stop exporting power. It's not even a secret, to Malawi, until we satisfy the local market. In the absence of that, we'll not allow our people to be in darkness, because look at how many people have suffered as a result of exporting power to other countries. We are having people's businesses collapse. Abantu amasaluni yawe alisarika mu compound yomo. Abantu abayicha barber shop, they are no longer operating because they can't afford to have solar or to have a genset. But this government doesn't understand. They don't get it. For them, they feel that everybody can access solar, because the president said, if you don't have hydropower, go and get solar. Now, that solar is saying go and get solar. They're just giving it for free. Because he himself said, me, I don't even use this hydropower. You remember? He said he doesn't use hydropower himself. He uses solar. It is because he can afford it. And he thinks all of us in Linda, he thinks all of us in Kankoyo, he thinks all of us in Imbala can afford to buy solar. I think he's being very insensitive. He's not being nice to us. The president has forgotten that the majority of our people are struggling even to have water. They are struggling to buy a bag of meal because he promised the people that a bag of meal was going to be costing 50 kwacha. It is now costing 440 kwacha and above. So people are not happy. For me, honestly, if I am elected by Zambian people, my obligation number one is with the Zambian citizens. Then we'll deal with Namibia, South Africa, and others later. That doesn't mean that we don't like our neighbors. We like our neighbors. But the neighbors are coming to thank you here in Zambia. The Namibians the other day were there thanking Zambia for giving them power. And the leaders were saying, oh no, don't worry, it's our obligation to make sure that you have power. What a shame. That will not happen. I don't need to be thanked by our neighbors. I need to be thanked by our people here who woke up around 04 to go and queue up to go and vote for Mr. Kainde Chilema. He has not thanked them. The only thank you has given them is to consign them in perpetual darkness. This must come to an end.
When you look at the economy, the state of the economy today, President Kalaba, and you contrast it against what the UPND found and inherited, they clearly had a focus, and they talked about, debt write-off, or they were going to do debt restructuring, fighting corruption, and reducing the cost of meal, reducing the cost of fuel, reducing the cost of all of these things. Now, when you look at what they inherited and where we are today, there is a school of thought that holds that we are faced with a much worse situation than we were in 2021. Now, if you are aspiring to take over in 2026, which is next year, you will be faced with a much humongous problem than the UPND, because remember, they have borrowed as well on top of what the PF borrowed. What are some of your priorities to fix the economy and bring it to a stable place where every Zambian will say, oh, we now have a president who knows what we need as a nation?
The first priority that will have to happen immediately we take over power is to stop the excesses of government that we are seeing. We are going to make sure that the mining and tax regime is properly aligned to benefit the Zambian people. We have money in this country. What we don't have is just leadership. If we had a serious leadership in this country, there is no way we can even be celebrating that our government is still borrowing and that they have qualified to continue to borrow more from the International Monetary Fund. We should not be doing that. This country has got God. Nobody talks about the God that we have in Kasenseli. All we hear is that helicopters are flying in or planes are flying in the night to go and get the gold in Kasenseli, and it is being taken out. That is a national asset which should have been benefiting the Zambians. Here where you and I are seated, the mines themselves, you are aware that when the UPND government came into power, they found that the tax, the mineral royalty tax, was at about 6%. What did they do when they came? They halved it to 3%. They gave the reason that the reason for the mines to pay a lower royal mineral royalty tax was because they wanted to attract more investment in the mining sector. Where are the investors that they have brought in the country? Because even when you look at Konkola copper mines, where they told us that they were going to give us new owners of Konkola copper mines, it has not happened. They have brought back the same vendetta to run Konkola copper mines.
You mean KCM?
Yes, KCM.
Yes.
So, I ask the question, then why did you reduce the mineral royalty tax from 6% to 3%? Why did you do that? It's because you did not want to tax our friends who have come from outside, the foreigners. You thought by you reducing the mineral royalty tax, you were endearing yourself to those that have come from outside, those conglomerates, so that you can be friends with them at the expense of the Zambians. That is wrong. Mr. Sata, when he upped the mineral royalty tax from 2.5 to 6%, it's because he understood that he needed to do the Pave Zambia 2000. He needed to do the Link Zambia 8000. He was getting money from the mines to begin paving the country, to begin tarring the country. Money was coming from the mines. But now today, the resource envelope for government has gone very low. Because where you are getting your monies, you're no longer getting the monies. You have allowed yourselves to lose revenue just like that. Last year, the government said that they had mined about 800,000 metric tons of copper. 800,000 metric tons of copper. That's what they had mined according to the reports that they have given us. What is there to show for it? Because 800,000 metric tons, you multiply it by 10,000, which is being sold at the London Metal Exchange, it's going to give you about 8 billion US dollars. Now, 8 billion US dollars, Pastor, where is that money in this country? Because if you have 8 billion in one single year, it means that this country did not even need the IMF. So Zambia has got the resources. What Zambia doesn't have is a serious leadership. We have leaders who are busy involved in cartels. We have leaders who are busy getting rich at the expense of the Zambian people. And when we speak like this, they'll tell you are politicking. They'll tell you are politicking because they're failing to take hard decisions. Let some of us come into power. We'll make the necessary decisions for the people of Zambia, because there is no way we can be mining copper and we are still struggling as a country. There is no way. This country has got emeralds. Nobody talks about the emeralds that are being mined on the copper belt. Nobody. And yet we are busy going with a begging bowl to the international community. Give us, give us, give us. That must come to an end. It's high time we looked inwardly to redeem ourselves. I think when you look at Tanzania, when Magufuli was president, may he so rest in peace, you saw how Magufuli changed that economy by looking inwardly. Citizens first coming into power will have to look inwardly. And there's a lot of money everywhere. You will see for yourself. There's a lot of money everywhere. It's just that people are corrupt. People are shy to stand up to those they consider as their friends. And so they would rather the nation loses revenue. They would rather they give the mining conglomerates tax holidays for 5 years and continue taxing heavily the marketeer pa Soweto. They would rather the Soweto person who's selling cabbage and tomato is taxed heavily, and those who are making billions in the mines get away with it. This anomaly is going to be corrected once and for all. And then you realize that there's a lot of money in this country. There is no way ERB should be announcing fuel every month. Why? When you have got Indian refinery, which should be working. And we advise this government. We told this government, why don't you buy the hydrocarbon cracker so that Indian becomes a refinery? Why don't you lay a pipeline from Angola? Because Angola is producing cheap oil. I was in Angola myself. Why don't you get that line, put that line between Angola and Zambia so that crude can come into Zambia? Once crude comes into Zambia, we can begin processing our own fuel in this country, which will be cheaper. We'll be having byproducts like bitumen. We'll be having byproducts like liquefied petroleum gas. All those things we have advised this government, but they don't want to listen. They would rather pump finished product. Once you are pumping a finished product, what that means that you are creating jobs for people from where you are importing that finished product. But once you bring in crude in this country, it means you are creating jobs for your own people. People will be working in the separation process.
I mean, talking about fuel, this is a side thought and just getting a cue from your thought process. As a media house, we reported earlier in the week of Zambian citizens in Chipata who are being arrested for buying fuel which is cheaper across the border in Malawi. They feel they'll be making a saving, to buy from Malawi than to buy from Zambia. And the question is, where does Malawi buy that cheap fuel that we cannot find the same affordable fuel? And since when, Mr. President, did it become a crime for a Zambian to be innovative and say, for me to buy this same fuel, let me look for a cheaper source than buying from my own country and they're being arrested. According to the news reports, we have a correspondent in Chipata, and they found in this report there are people who are being arrested for buying fuel from across the border.
You know, you can even laugh. Why should someone be arrested for going to bring in cooking oil? You are failing to arrest people who are bringing in cooking oil from Zimbabwe and they are selling in Zambia. Why are you not arresting them? You are failing to arrest people who are bringing in clothes from South Africa and they are selling in Zambia. You are not arresting them. Why should you arrest people who are going to get fuel and they bring it in Zambia and they want to resell? So you have to arrest them. Arrest your behavior. Arrest your greedy behavior by UPND. Because once you arrest your greedy behavior, then all these things that we are seeing will come to an end. We told you in the beginning, the only way fuel can come down is what I was saying before. You make Indeni a refinery. Once Indeni is a refinery, you'll be able to stockpile your fuel in there. And once you stockpile your fuel in there, there'll be no need for ERB to be announcing every week. Dr. Kaunda ran this country for 27 years. We never saw the behavior we are seeing today from ERB. Mr. Mwanawasa came, Mr. Chiluba came, President Lungu came, Mr. Sata came. We never saw Chiluba. We never saw this behavior of announcing fuel every month. It's just done by business people who know where they should make their profit and make a killing. But when we told Zambians, they thought we were joking. We told Zambians that these people you are putting in power have got nothing to do with you as Zambians. Their interests are their pockets because they need to fill up their pockets. And they're saying it themselves. They're saying we suffered a lot in the opposition. It is time to eat. How can it be time to eat when Zambians are suffering? How can it be time to begin drinking wine when Zambians are suffering? So these are the issues that we are talking about. Let the people in Chipata, go and use their initiative. There's nothing wrong with going to get fuel in Chipata, in Malawi or in Muchinji, and then you come and resell it and you make a killing for yourself. If that is what you want to do, that should not be a problem. This government must learn to understand that if people are using their initiative, they should be supported. They have failed to support their own people here. They have failed to support their own people who are using initiative. Small, medium enterprises, they have killed them by their harsh policies of selling electricity. And they're not talking about it. They have killed them completely. So when people begin using their initiative, I think they should let them be scot-free.
You made mention and made reference to the late President Michael Sata, may he so rest in peace. And that reminded me of a sentiment I heard from someone saying that President Michael Sata was in office much lesser than the time that President Hakainde Hichilema has been in office. And the comment that someone made was that, and I think I was reading somewhere, and I need for you to react to it because you have mentioned President Sata and you triggered that that thought. And the comment was that in the last few years, or the short time that President Sata was in office, he did so much around infrastructure development that you can point at, that at the time that you were departing from this earth, there was a legacy that he left behind. But President Hichilema has been in power much longer than the time that President Sata was in office. And the comment was, there is pretty much nothing that you can point at when you put the two leaders, side by side.
I don't even know why you are saying you read somewhere. Do you even need to read something that you are living, Pastor? Do you honestly live enough to read that you read somewhere? Why do you have to say you read somewhere when you know that when Sata was president, we didn't have this kind of load shedding? Why do you have to read somewhere when you know that when Sata was president, Milmi was not costing 400? Do you honestly have to read elsewhere to know that the pump price of fuel when Sata was president was not 30 kwacha or 34 kwacha? That is something which is there. And they have been saying they have done 4 years and they have worked a lot. That's not true. In the 4 years that these people have been in government, they have got nothing to point at. Literally nothing to point at. Mr. Sata, as you've rightly put it, was president not even for 3 years, because the last part of his year, He spent it in and out of hospital, as you remember. He was in Israel, came back, went to London. So he wasn't well in the last 6 months of his presidency. But look at what he did. Mr. Sata embarked on a robust program of the Link Zambia 8000. He began making roads, connecting districts, connecting provinces. Within the first 2 years of his presidency, Mr. Sata, within his 2 years, he was able to begin putting roads in all these cities. He was able to build infrastructure. The Lusaka International Airport you are seeing, the KK International Airport, it was started during Mr. Sata's time. Mr. Sata began the Harimwanga Nkumbala Airport. Most of the big projects that you see today were done by the man within the 3 years he was in government. So when we hear people say that they have worked in 4 years, what have they done? Nothing. MMD in 1991 when they came, they also did a lot within the first 3 months of their being in government. You remember that there was a problem of transport in this country. Mr. Chilwa, when he came in government, he made sure that he demystified that myth. He began bringing in, I removed duty on everybody that was bringing in buses that were going to help people demystify the transport issues. That is how people work. These people have literally failed. All they did were promises, which promises they have not fulfilled. The only promises they have fulfilled is with the foreigners, because yes, they have given the foreigners tax holidays. Yes, it is true. They have they promised the foreigners that they were going to reduce the meal royalty tax from 6 to 3. They have done that. Yes, it is true that now it is easy in our country for foreigners to get big contracts at the expense of Zambians, because when you look at our country today, Pastor, you find that even the people that are doing the Lusaka and Dollar dual carriageway, they are foreigners. And yet the money is coming from workers' compensation, from NAPSA. These are institutions of the local Zambian people. The local Zambian people raise revenue and they give the foreigners that you are the ones who know how to take your children to good schools. You are the ones who know how to eat well in your homes. For us as Zambians, we will just be watching you. And the government is happy with that. They don't stop at that. They go to Chirundu border post. They give a foreigner to run the revenue port there. They go to Kasumbalesa border. They give a foreigner to run the revenue port there. They go to Sakanya border. They give a foreigner to run the border there. You go to Chanida. They give a foreigner to run the. They have given, this country has been given to outsiders. They have auctioned this country, and we are just watching. We are going to get this country back next year, because there is no way you can give Kasumbalesa border post to foreigners to be collecting revenue for you and then they share the money with you. Even the targets they have given to foreigners. What type of people are these? So yes, they have fulfilled the promises with the foreigners, but not with the Zambian people, because they promised the people that there will be no load shedding. We are being load shedded heavily. They promised us that we are going to have the cost of living will come down. The cost of living keeps on going high. They promised the youths that they'll create jobs for them. They have not done that. The civil servants were promised that their salaries will be increased, that they'll make sure that civil servants who have upgraded themselves are looked at and that they are promoted accordingly. That has not happened. We will do it, especially myself, Pastor, because I was a civil servant. So I know the challenges that the civil service go through. This will be dealt with, we'll handle it properly, and those that have pushed themselves to study more when they have been employed will ensure that they are remunerated according to their studies, according to how they have upgraded themselves, not what we are seeing now.
You seem to be leading me on. I'm the one who should be interviewing, but you're giving me cues of what's been in the news. Earlier in the week, we reported on our page as KBN. Since you're talking about civil service, we reported as KBN, there is an organization within the UPND called Implementers. They are being sent in different parastatal organizations, and they are the ones as cadres who are recommending who should be fired and who should be replaced with who. The recent expose involves the same organization or group of cadres called implementers who went into Smart Zambia. Now, Smart Zambia is a very sensitive institution. It has to do with intelligence gathering. It has to do with running of government smartly. So there's a lot of sensitivity in the institution. They went there and came up with a report which they've recommended to their party, that this one and that one, the head of the institution, the chief accountant, the head of HR, who was the other one, someone in charge of procurement and someone in charge of, literally, they must be fired and be replaced with what they are calling people who understand the ideology of the UPND. You said you were a civil servant, and then can you walk us through, and the people, how are civil servants fired? Is it a recommendation of cadres, or it's a recommendation of perhaps the Civil Service Commission? I don't know. I've never been a civil servant myself. I worked for a quasi-government institution, Zamtel. I can't call myself a civil servant. So I don't know. I need to be educated by you.
Look, first of all, it's very sad that Smart Zambia is under siege by the politicians. And again, it is a lack of understanding of governance by the head of state and his handlers. Because the civil service and politics are delinked. The civil service is like a secretariat for government. While they should be able to continue and there should be a sense of permanence in the civil service, in the politics, the people choose and get you in and out at their own will every 5 years. But because of lack of understanding of how government works, this government is mixing things. They are getting cadres to go into government departments, to take over government positions, and they have lost the essence of governance. They have lost the touch and feel of the civil service. When I was entering the civil service, we had to go and sit for exams at NIPA to enter, and then you begin rising through the ranks. Permanent secretaries were rising through the ranks. Today they can get anybody, and anybody will become a permanent secretary. And those permanent secretaries now are learning from administrative officers, from executive officers. So that is the problem which is there. Those cadres that they have allowed to ransack government, disturb the civil service in the way the civil service should work, are basically destroying the flow of work. And that is why the UPND has failed to achieve anything. It's because they don't know the demarcations. They don't understand the limitations and the powers of politicians, as well as the work of the civil service. They don't understand and they don't get it. Cadres, as they are called, those who are aligned to the UPND, have now seen an opportunity to go and begin recommending that remove the chief accountant, remove the director general, remove this one, because they feel those are impediments. Those are impeding them from getting what they want. And when they say they are not acting according to the ideology of the UPND, what do they mean? Because what I know is that every party has got a manifesto. But there is what is called national plans in government. Right now we're talking about the 8th National Development Plan, right? The manifesto of a political party must align itself to the vision of the country. The country has a vision. It's called the 7th National Development Plan, 8th National Development Plan, and so on and so forth. Those national plans are permanent. The country has projected itself that between now and 2030, this is how we are going to move. Short term, medium term, and long term. Our manifestos as political parties should come and marry themselves with the national plan of the country. Imagine if every government would come in or every party would come in and have their own national plan. They also start their own national plans. The country would not move. So it is to see our priority as citizens first, for instance, is agriculture. It is manufacturing. It is industrialization. So we'll go to the national plan when we come into government. and see how do we marry what the national plan is saying on agriculture with our own with our own manifesto on agriculture. So when people tell you it is not marrying with the ideology of the UPND, does the UPND even have any ideology anyway? Because I've not heard them speak to anything on policy position. What is their policy, for instance, on infrastructure by UPND? What is their policy on Zambians and enriching Zambians?
I mean, they've commissioned a number of infrastructure like toilets and I think recently there was a small structure called health something at a school. The president was there, so clearly you can see they've got something on infrastructure.
You see, the UPND does not have any plans. That's why you see that the head of state, anything he sees, he will jump on it. He just hears, oh, we use CDF in this place and ka toilet kalipwa tumuikatako, I'll be coming to deal with it. He hears something that, oh, we have got a market, some stands were put in place. You will say, oh, okay, don't touch there. I am coming to deal with it. That is the problem that we have currently with this UPND government. But opening of those toilets that they are opening of those market stands that they are opening, that is not policy. We need to hear them tell us that if it comes to road infrastructure, we are going to ensure that we support 80% of Zambians will be encouraged to get contracts, and only 20% of foreigners will be entitled to also getting contracts. There is nothing happening there. We should have heard them telling us about agriculture, that they want to be value adding. They want to make sure that we mechanize agriculture. They will tell us that we want to promote agriculture and employ more youths in the agriculture sector. We have not heard that. They are quiet on policy. UPND has just been in a campaign mode from the time that they came into government in 2021. It's campaigning, wanting to get back into government when they cannot even tell us what they have done to deserve another term, which they're not getting anyway, because the blunders that they have created in this country, the poverty that they have introduced in Zambia, nobody in their right frame of mind would want to bring him UPND back. They must go.
Your party is called Citizens First, and you are in alliance with other political parties in the United Kwacha Alliance. Lately, I have heard you on a number of interviews talk about your desire, whether it is a personal desire or it's a collective desire of Citizens First and United Kwacha Alliance to create an enabling environment where Zambia must produce millionaires. How are you going to do that in a society that seems to have accepted that it's okay to support foreigners? They are the ones who are blessed by God to become millionaires from Zambia, and Zambians must be servants of foreigners. What's your focus? How are you going to turn this tide around? Are you the one, or we should wait for another?
You are looking at the very one that you're waiting for to come into power next year. The Nigerians were very deliberate about it. The Nigerians went and saw that Dangote was very illustrious in what he was doing. They made sure that Dangote was helped by the government. We will have a deliberate policy of ensuring that Zambian businessmen and women are given space to prosper. We will ensure that Zambian businessmen and women are given incentives as opposed to giving incentives to foreigners that they're giving. We want to ensure that Zambian businessmen and women are able to compete favorably. Today you have got Zambian businessmen going to these banks that we have. These banks are not even banks, if you want to say, when it comes to getting loans. They are like Shylocks. You have got people going to get money at the interest rate of about as high as 27%, 31%. How can you do business with such kind of interest rates? Very prohibitive. While their competitors in China are getting interest-free loans. Instead of politicians getting interest-free loans, it is businessmen and women with proper plans that should be given interest-free loans. We are not doing that. So for us, we are very clear about it. We will have to help our local people to become millionaires by having deliberate policies, by having incentives given to our businessmen and women. And we'll stop this behavior of saying, because you are a businessman in the UPND, you cannot supply in the Citizens First government. It will not happen. If you are a businessman in UNIP, you are a businessman in MMD, you can still supply, you can still do business with government, for as long as there's nothing illegal you are doing. Why should a businessman suffer for having just being a businessman or a woman? Why should they suffer? We should give them space to prosper. And we should feel ashamed, Pastor, that 61 years of independence this year, Zambia has failed to record a billionaire. We have failed. Namibia, where the president has gone today, after skipping the funeral of Sam Nujoma, where he has gone today, Namibia has 3 recorded billionaires. Namibia with a population of 1.8 million people. Botswana has got billionaires. Kenya, don't even talk about them. Angola, don't even bring them on the table. Tanzania, we are the only ones in SADC. We are the only ones who have failed to produce a billionaire, because here in this country, when people begin making business like this, you have someone who was a businessman during Kaunda time, but no, you belong to UNIP. Number, we need to find somebody else to do this. We are always reinventing the wheel. Instead of encouraging entrepreneurship, instead of giving them incentives, even these mines that we are busy calling outsiders to come and run, if we were just prudent with our own people, the Ndambos of this world that you have, why should they be investing and spending millions of dollars elsewhere instead of spending it here? Give the man incentives, let him come. But he just does a small thing on his part. My hometown in Choma, all hell had to break loose. And you don't encourage business people like that. We are going to be very deliberate about it. We want to produce billionaires, at least by the time we'll be leaving government. After 40 years or 50 years of governance of the Citizens First, we will have left multiple billionaires dotted across the country. Then we'll be proud to say Zambia is for Zambians. That Zambia is able to produce its own people who can take advantage of their own wealth.
Is that what informs the name of your party, Citizens First?
Yes, that's why we are called Citizens First. We are going to be elected by Zambians. So there's no way we can be exporting power to another country before we give our own people. That cannot happen. Not under our administration. There is no way, it's not possible that we can allow our mines to be ransacked the way they are being ransacked by outsiders, and Zambians are consigned to Black Mountains. No ways. It can't happen. We can't allow politicians to begin doing what they are doing. We want politicians to understand that when people give you an opportunity to run the affairs of governance, they've just given you an opportunity. It's not for you to begin looting, using proxies, using your friends, and so on and so forth. All those things will come to an end.
The Kwacha continues to receive severe battering from some of the major convertible currencies, and consequently driving inflation through the roof. Now, you understand, if you look back in the campaign messages of the UPND, one of their campaign tickets was dealing with inflation and making sure that the Kwacha appreciates. And I remember the president in opposition saying, when I'm sworn in at 10 hours, by 14 hours, the Kwacha will appreciate. Today, the Kwacha is in excess of 28, 29, there about. Now, I needed to know, is it a question of fundamentals that have gone wrong? What will you be doing as Citizens First to make sure that, even if maybe it's not your campaign ticket as it was for the UPND, that we will make sure that the Kwacha appreciates by 14 hours. It may not be your campaign ticket, but what are you going to do? As I warned you earlier that you'll be inheriting, perhaps if you are the one to take over government next year, you'll be inheriting a mammoth task, a humongous, a mountain. You'll be literally climbing a mountain of whether debt or this or that, corruption and all. What will you be doing to make sure that the Kwacha comes to a level of stability? Because for anyone in business, it's difficult to plan with a Kwacha that is oscillating and receiving beatings left, right, and center.
First of all, what is going to stabilize the Kwacha is not just empty rhetoric. What is going to stabilize the Kwacha is the levels of exports that Zambia will be engaged in. Kwacha can only become strong if the monies that are coming from the mines, remember that 78% of our exports is from the mining sector. If the money is coming from the mines will find their way back into Zambia, the Kwacha will be strong. But right now, the mines which should be able to stabilize our Kwacha, we have allowed our friends in the mining sector to externalize the monies, and then we don't have the dollars in this economy. They are banking elsewhere. Other economies are getting stronger, and here in this country nothing like that is happening. We want ourselves, when we come into government, to look at that. Not that we are going to stop our colleagues from the mining sector to stop putting money where they want to put it, but at least we would need to have an understanding with our colleagues that when we sell our copper, Zambia must get a benefit of letting the money, first of all, come back into this economy. Let the money sit in Indo-Zambia Bank. Let the money sit in Zambia National Commercial Bank. Once that happens, the liquidity squeeze which we are currently experiencing in this country will not be there.
Can you tell me why?
Secondly.
Okay, please go ahead.
Secondly, sir, we will ensure ourselves that we begin value addition on our products. Sir, you want to know that in this country we used to produce ceramic tiles. Are you aware?
We are producing even now.
Yes, but the scale at which we are producing ceramic tiles that time was very huge. We had more pottery, which our chief now in Kaoma, Akashamba Twambikiselewanika, I was heading. We used to export tiles to China. We used to export tiles to Argentina. We used to export tiles to various parts of Africa. And so we used to get revenue back in the country. We used to export a lot of flowers also in this country. And revenue was coming back in the country. But now we have to find ways and means of ensuring that we begin value addition on our natural resources. Can you imagine, Pastor, if we stopped importing soya chunks and we began making our own soya chunks here? Because we grow soya beans, but we are getting soya chunks from outside Zambia. If we began value adding, it means we are already strengthening our Kwacha. We are producing sunflower in this country, and yet cooking oil is coming from Zimbabwe. Cooking oil is coming from Tanzania. Why? And how can the Kwacha become strong in that fashion? Because we are like a dumping market. It's high time we realized that the only way the Kwacha will be strong is by us doing a lot of exports, which we are not doing currently. So no matter how we talk, for as long as we remain careless on how we externalize resources outside our economy, the Kwacha will continue struggling.
How can the Zambian people trust you when they have heard similar sentiments from an economist? You are coming from a background of a civil servant. You don't know economics. We are now, being governed by an accomplished businessman and economist who spoke flowery language that excited every Zambian, from the high to the lowest. You come here, President Harry Kalaba, with your background as a civil servant, and people are saying we are already feeling let down by an economist. Why should they buy into your story?
Magufuli in Tanzania was not an economist, but the Tanzanian economy was very robust. Kagame in Rwanda is not an economist. Today, the economy in Rwanda is one of the best on the continent. It is who you bring around you. That is leadership. Dr. Kaunda was not an economist. Look at how Dr. Kaunda ran this economy for 27 years. If you gave this man, Mr. Ichilema, if you gave him 27 years to run the way Dr. Kaunda ran 27 years this country, Zambia would not even be there. Because in 4 years, we have seen takataka at its highest. Just in 4 years. The man doesn't know whether it's coming or going. And I don't want to sound personal, because those are not my politics, really. But because of lack of policy consistency, policy coherence, they have failed to get it right. I don't need to be an economist for me to understand that this country should not be load shedding its people. I don't have to be an economist. All I have to be is to be a good citizen. I have to be a patriot. That's all. And there are technocrats around me who will be able to tell me, this we can do it like this, and I'll be listening. This we can do that, and I'll be listening. When I was Minister of Foreign Affairs, I have never done international relations. I have a master's degree in public administration, as you know. But I managed to thrive within the waters of international relations because I found experts there. I found people who had been in the ministry for a long time. And before I could go to Parliament to answer questions, they would sit me down. Would always have a mock rehearsal. Minister, if they ask you this, if they ask you this, before I can go for SADC meetings or AU meetings or the UN General Assembly, they would always ask me, if you present this position and your colleagues ask you this, how will you answer it? Because you know, Minister, in 1965, this is what happened. So they would put me together and I would get their lessons very well and I would go. You ask the current secretary to the cabinet, Mr. Patrick Chagwa. He was my permanent secretary when I was deputy minister in the office of the vice president. Mr. Chagwa will tell you that I never went on TV without him and I sitting down together. And then he will take me through the DMMU Act. He will take me through how they have projected what will happen in this province and in that area. And he will tell me, if they ask you like this, minister, you should answer like this. If they ask you like this, you know, he was drilling me. But our current president doesn't have that time because he is the one teaching people that he has found. He is the one telling them how to do it. So how can you learn like that? So one doesn't need to be an economist to put things right. One only needs to be a patriot. One only needs to be above corruption. One only needs to love the people that voted for him or her for them to deliver. Mwanawasa, look at how Mwanawasa worked. Look at how people today are crying, President Lungu, President Lungu, President Lungu. Was President Lungu an economist? President Lungu was not an economist. But the one who was not an economist managed to leave the price of mealie meal at 140 kwacha. Your economist whom you are bringing here, Pastor, has now taken us to over 400 kwacha. The one who was there, who was a lawyer, did not give us blackouts, the ones that we're experiencing now. Yes, there was load shedding. And it was 4 hours of load shedding, I remember, even when we were going for elections. And the UPND promised that these 4 hours of load shedding you're having now is going to evaporate when you vote us into power. We brought them into power. They have multiplied that, or now they have quadrupled that. We are now having 16 hours of load shedding, 20 hours of load shedding, 22 hours of load shedding. Some are even staying for 2 days. They've never had power come in their homes. So you don't have to be an economist. Because some people can just be economists on paper, but when it comes to being practical, they are failing to implement what they learned. I have known of coaches who have never played football. They're just good at theories. But when you say, come and even do some press-ups here, come and see if you can do a corner, they will not do it. But they're able to do it just from paper. So, I am not an economist. I am a public administrator. That is why I'm able to listen to lawyers. That's why I'll be able to listen to engineers. That's why I'll be able to listen to economists. That's why I'll be able to listen to various technocrats in various fields. Because I am an administrator. I understand how things must be done. And I know that it is not me who should be doing the talking. I should be listening more as head of state and implement. Listen more and implement. Because if he was listening, he would not even have gone into the rush mode he went into on this load shedding thing. If he was listening, the president should not have sold the maize that he found at FRA, because Cholaka Fuabulula at the time advised him that this is strategic. We don't know what tomorrow will bring. He said, no, we are going to run farming as a business. And he sold the maize. After selling the maize, a drought comes and he cries wolf, that now we have been hit by a drought. Why? Because he didn't understand that the way a country operates is not the way a private business operates. A country is humongous. Running a country is complex.
You think he's going to listen over the constitution?
Mr. Hakainde Hichilema has got no choice. Mr. Hichilema has got no choice on the constitution, because that is not a party manifesto for UPND. That is one where all of us as stakeholders have got an interest. And because it is not his party manifesto, he can bulldoze the way he has been bulldozing in UPND. We don't care. Those are their own things. But when it comes to making amendments to the constitution, he must know that there are several stakeholders. And so far, all the stakeholders, 75 or not, if not 90% of the stakeholders have said no. I think it's just yesterday I was reading that the 3 church mother bodies have told him hands off the constitution until after the elections. We in the political sphere have all told him hands off. You in the media profession have told him hands off. You go to every Lars has told him hands off. So if everybody has refused and you are claiming to be a president for the people, who do you want to rule over if everybody has told you, please don't, let's not proceed in that fashion? Why would you want to insist? Why would you want to say, because I want to appoint more women? Where were you? Why haven't you implemented the Beijing platform of action for women, which was done in 1994? Why haven't you implemented the many protocols that Zambia has committed itself to? And you chose to ignore them. Why didn't you employ Article 259 of the Republican Constitution, which gives you the leverage to employ or to appoint both genders equitably? Why have you, out of 10 provincial ministers, you have only appointed one, Sheri Mulyad, as the provincial minister? 9 of them are all male. How many parastatal heads have you appointed who are women? There are several of them are men. You've got 47 missions. It is you, KBN, I was reading in your editorial that day, where you said there are only 10 head of mission women. The rest are men. This is a man that has had an opportunity to appoint women at every 10, and he has appointed men. So he should not waste our time by talking about women, because in his typical lying style, he wants to wink the women, knowing very well that they are majority when it comes to voting. So he has sensed defeat. He has sensed that these women are not happy with him, because he told them he was going to empower them, and he has not empowered them. So what do? Let me hoodwink them that the women, we are fighting for you. You can't always be playing with people. You can't. But anyway, I am not surprised, because that is the nature of the UPND. That is the nature of our head of state. He is always out there to use others, out there to do things for himself. That is why at the end of the day, he will say this today, the other day he will say that. Look at Vendetta. And when he said they will not take over KCM, that's what he said. Vendetta is not coming back. At a press briefing at State House. 2 weeks later, Vendetta comes back. He says, we've got court issues. How can a head of state be so careless with the manner in which he handles national affairs? How can he be so careless in saying, today we will not allow ministers to drive GXs because we don't have that money? The following day, he's buying new GXs. How can head of state say, Mr. Lungu, are traveling a lot, and today he has managed to beat even Dr. Kaunda in terms of the way he has traveled outside the country? Now we have even stopped counting. Those who would say, oh, he has done 52 trips, and he was just smiling, and even said it himself one day when he's coming at the airport. He said, you get tired, let them talk. He is always traveling outside, but he has failed to visit certain parts of this country where people voted for him.
On the 31st of this month, 31st of March 2025, the central bank will be unveiling and launching the new family of notes and coins for the Zambian kwacha. I need to ask you, President Harry Kalaba, I mean, in your own understanding, you said you listen to technocrats,
yeah,
and I'm sure you have been consulting. What do you think this new currency is going to cure? I mean, an economy that is on its knees, an inflation rate that is through the roof, and we're not exporting, but we have printed the kwacha. Perhaps that is the cure for the many economic challenges we are having?
Obviously, this was a business given to some people, and somebody has cured his pocket, because for them to have given you this business, it means that there should have been some kickback here and there. So somebody's pocket has been oiled. That is the only remedy which is there, because I can't think of a reason why at a time such as this, when the economy is literally struggling, that you can spend more money to begin changing the currency. Because I thought this is not something you can do in your first year. It is something that you should do probably in your second year, after you stabilize, after you fulfill all the promises that you made. Because change of currency was not one of the promises that they gave us, but they've gone ahead to change the currency, and I am failing to conceive why they are changing the currency. Is it just to make a name that when I was president I changed the currency? Or is there something that they're doing that we are failing to comprehend from where we are seated? But obviously, knowing the UPND there must be something. But I can tell you, nothing is hidden under the sun. We'll one day discover why the agency in changing the currency and the manner in which they did it. It took KBN to expose them that a new currency was coming. And when I read on your platform that a new currency was coming, I was shocked, because normally when a new currency is coming, a cabinet should have sat, and normally, as you know, Cornelius Mweto, the chief government spokesperson, always tells us the deliberations that went on in cabinet. We never heard at any point him telling us that the currency shift was one of the issues which cabinet had approved. Why was it kept a secret? Why should it be kept a secret? Because if it was indeed deliberated in cabinet, it should have been kept, it should have been told to the public. But what we hear is that this matter never even came up in cabinet. This matter was just discussed amongst the president's aides and himself, and they decided we're going to do this. Let's not inform them. Cabinet is 1+2. It's me +1. Therefore, since Secretary to Cabinet might be aware, let's go ahead and do it. That is how he even looks down on his own cabinet. So obviously, there's a lot of secrecy around the currency change, and as I said, we can only speculate why they are changing. And I've heard of this very lame excuse, no, because some people might have kept money. If they have kept money and you have given a year in which they can use that same old currency, why can they still use it? Because the old currency is going to work hand in hand with the new currency up to March next year. So if the reason you are giving is that there are some people who could have kept money in their homes, so we want to smoke them out, how will you smoke them out? Because they'll still be using that money anyway. For me, the UPND's Mingalato will be known on the printing of this new currency, and we will know it. It's a question of time. And if people are not careful, some will even be held accountable when power exchanges hands.
Right. Now let's go to the copper belt, and I know you talked about KCM and the promise of the president not to bring back Vedanta. KCM is struggling in the hands of Vedanta, and the reason I'm bringing this up is because KCM is a national asset, And there is currently a legal issue, but as a key stakeholder, political leader, and aspiring president for next year, you clearly can make a fair comment that is in the national interest on this particular matter. The court, gave CEC a mandate to go and seize some assets to recover over 300 million owed to them by KCM. But of course, there's a stay that has been obtained. So the seizure has been stopped for now, temporarily. But this is the same asset that, as an investor, this is the same asset that was given back to Vedanta. Should we be talking about the contention about who owes what? Isn't this part of the deal that they should have just come and paid off? I need for you to make a fair comment. This matter is in court, yes, but it's a matter of public interest, and this is a national asset.
I'll tell you that without even stepping on the court process, I'll tell you that this is what happens when a leadership is taking its people for granted. This is what happens when a leadership has not done its research when it comes to issues of the people's best interests. Because clearly, it is telling you that KCM is failing to pay its suppliers. KCM is failing to meet its obligations. For the bailiffs to come in, it means that it has taken them too long, and they've been talking in the back doors back and forth, and nothing was coming out. And government has not even come in to tell us what role they have played to ensure that KCM does not get humiliated in that fashion. Because it's even not a good thing for the country to see a mining company like KCM going through such things, because clearly it is showing you that they are not making the money that they should be making, and that the projected injection of capital in KCM has not taken place. One can easily speculate that there is no capital which has come into that KCM. Because if capital had come into KCM, there is no way KCM today can face such humiliation. It means there's a problem. So why in the first place did you give them tax holidays for 5 years? Why in the first place did you even reduce the mineral royalty tax from 6 to 3%? Why did you do that? There is a lot that one can ask, but you will not get genuine answers from people that have chosen to tell lies to their citizens. We will never get these answers, but answers will be given in the next 17 months,
right,
when power changes hands.
When power changes hands. Now, President Harry Kalaba, I've followed your arguments around Indeni and Tazama, and coincidentally, even now, you raised it earlier in your submissions. There's something happening around Indeni and Tazama with regards to agrofuel. Now, agrofuel was single-sourced and given almost like exclusive rights to use the facility on the copper belt to the exclusion of other fuel suppliers. There was a review, and government made a decision that they're going to do what they are calling for bidding for open access to Tazama. Now, what has come out of this is that agrofuel was supplying the Zambian government, as the Zambian people, something like $113 per metric ton of fuel. With the new bidding for open access, the same agrofuel submitted a bid now of $54 per metric ton. This has raised a lot of eyebrows, and people are talking to say how in the last 4 years the same company has been supplying at $113 per metric ton of fuel. How justifiable is it that suddenly they can reduce to 54 per metric ton? How do you justify the difference? I don't know, as a stakeholder and someone who has really preached about making sure that Indeni is sustainable and it's used to reduce the cost of fuel. How are you reading into this particular issue that most people are calling a scandal?
I mean, first of all, that is a matter that we have taken very seriously as Citizens First. It's a matter that we are studying with a lot of interest. We want to understand the complexities that are tied to this transaction, and we have already asked somebody to, in fact a team, to help us understand really what is going on and how government has landed where they have landed. You'll recall, sir, that the CF was one of those parties, in fact the very first party, that supported the cooperating partners when they said that there must be open access on the usage of the Tazama pipeline. And we said it is important that all other players, OMCs, come in and allow competitive processes to happen on the Tazama pipeline. But as you have seen, there is now a new twist to what has happened with the same agrofuel and government. So we want to come up with a comprehensive statement on the same after getting the facts right.
Right.
We are a party that is waiting to go in government. And when we comment on some things, we want to comment from a basis of facts. And so we want to get this thing right and understand why is it that government is adamant on one supplier. Just why? We want to find out why. And we'll get to the bottom of it.
We are running, short of time, and before I pick up maybe 3-4 phone calls and let you go, President Kalaba, you told me you've got other engagements after this. I need for you to comment on one thing. As a former member of parliament for Bahati, for the years that you served the people of Bahati, what does it mean when a member of parliament is now being accosted, chased, almost close to being beaten by the people that voted for you? The case of the Minister of Health, Mr. Elijah Muchima. What does that mean in your years as a member of parliament?
First of all, I want to tell you that Minister Muchima is a brother of mine. I worked with him. He was in the civil service like me, and he was HIV/AIDS coordinator in his place at the office of the president where I was working, and I was a civil servant at Lands. So we have come together with Minister Muchima from way back. And I had not seen the video until it was given to me later on by one of my colleagues in the office today that, have you seen how this minister was chased? When you see things like that begin happening, my good brother Muchima, don't even begin justifying it by saying, no, he was PF, he was Wati. All these years that he was PF, they never chased you. How come they have chased you today? It is because there comes a point in the life of a community that they will say enough is enough. We have had you from 2006 when you went into parliament up until 2025. You have been here for almost 20 years in the house. We want you out. And when they want him out, despite him being a very senior minister of health, it means they also want Baba Mkulu at the community house out, because they can't want Pikinini there to go out and they leave Baba. Even Baba has to go. So the people already have seen that there's nothing that they're going to get from these people, and they're fed up. Having been a member of parliament myself for 2 terms, I understand that when you see such actions, leave. That's why they say people should know when to leave. Leave the audience or leave the stage when the audience is still clapping. You just can't go on in perpetuity. Just go on in perpetuity. Go on in perpetuity until heavens come, you're still member of parliament. There must be a time when you should say, there are other things I can do in parliament. I found them in parliament. I left them in parliament. Me, I'm even aspiring to become president.
They are still in parliament.
They are still in parliament. I'll be opening parliament next year when I go to open the first session of parliament next year. I'm going to find them seated in the chamber. What type of people are they?
Your confidence?
Because my confidence emanates from the fact that Zambians are suffering. My confidence emanates from the fact that the lies that have been told, and thank God, these people are putting everything on Facebook and Facebook. So Facebook doesn't delete those things. They keep on running them. They keep on running them. They keep on running them. And you see, these people are they're so strange human beings. Even when people are reposting those things, when you see them the following day, it's as if nothing has been reposted about them. It's business as usual.
Before I pick up a few phone calls, the line which is on the screen there is buzzing, and people have already been sending so many messages. Let me read a few messages and then we'll pick up a few phone calls. This one says, UPND is the worst political party that has ever ruled this country since independence. He rejected Bill 10. Now he wants to manipulate the constitution to prolong his stay in power. Shame, misplaced trust. Rocky Musumba from Livingstone. Another one says, Pastor Mambwe, for some time I did not like Harry. I thought he was too full of himself, but let him position himself as an alternative. UPND government to me is a threat not only to democracy but even to peace of our nation, as we can already see the serious maneuvers to alter the constitution to perpetuate their stay in power. Help us boot them out through the ballot. Again, this is the same Ricky from Livingstone. Let me pick up this phone call and I'll read a few more messages. Good evening. Welcome to State of the Nation. Your name and where you're calling us from.
Hello.
Hello. Good evening. Your name and where you're calling us from.
This is Monga from Livingstone.
Mr. Monga from Livingstone. Please go ahead and make your submission.
Yes. I think politicians, usually they are natural liars. I was listening to President Kalaba when he said when UPND came, the movie was at 150.
He said 140.
Sometimes we should not be too quick to forget. The movie was not at 150.
He said 140. Let me just correct you. He said 140.
Oh, okay, 140. But have you ever watched that video from Kambi where you was complaining of movie going up to 280? I think I'll be kind enough to send that video so that one time we play it there. Because some people who come there are good liars. And even Israel, if you think of Israel, when Israel came into power, it was at 35. But when they left, how much was it? When you work out the percentages, what caused the more problems? It's the previous government. We should appreciate certain things. And actually, there's no time when our friend, Harry Kalaba, who praised the current government, everything that the current government has done is nothing to him. There are a good number of things that have been done very well, but this place where it is due, and they only criticize it where it's necessary. Let's be fair. Because if we can criticize even good things, many people will not trust us. He was talking of running a government through other people, maybe being advised by other people. That's what we were hearing even from the previous president. They were saying, no, I have no plan, but other people will help me. We want people with the plan. Let him state what he's going to do to solve the problems that he's claiming to be there. Otherwise, if it were the previous government, this season when we had the drought, it was going to be worse. We are all going to a lot of people are going to die. There was a drought during their time, during the PF.
Your 1 minute is up.
Okay, during the PF, we are even told to go and urinate in the Zambezi River in order to have power. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. So we seem to have a lot of interest from Livingstone. The caller is from Livingstone. The messages I was reading is someone from Livingstone. But let me perhaps pick up a few more calls before you respond. This one says, enough is enough, President Kalaba. I like your confidence. UPND has failed to listen to the cry of the people. Emmanuel Nyambose. He doesn't say where he's writing from. Emmanuel Nyambose, please do us a favor when you send in a message. Tell us where so we know who is watching from where. This one says, good evening, Pastor. Ignore that UPND cadre. He has nothing to contribute. Okay. Another one here says, let's see. Another one here says, this is a long message, but let me try. President Harry Kalaba, you are telling the truth. The only song that the UPND are singing is CDF, free education, and we have employed 34,000 teachers and 11,000 health workers. As if this is the one who built the hospitals and schools. Come 2026, like you have said, that he should know if he's gone. He doesn't know if he's going or he's coming or something like that. Anyway, here is another caller. Good evening and welcome to State of the Nation.
Hello.
Hello, good evening. Your name and where you're calling us from?
This is Melvin. We're calling you from Choma.
From Choma. Melvin, please speak up and go ahead.
I've known Harry Kalaba is a good man. He used to come with Karomo.
Speak up so we can hear you.
He's a good man, Mr. Kalaba.
Oh. Do you want to respond first of all to the messages and the other caller? This one has cut.
Well, he has cut and he has said he has known me from our way back. I'm a good man. Thank you, sir, for being a good witness. These are the witnesses we need. Now, the caller from Livingston, Mr. What is his name again?
Can't remember the name.
Yeah, you can't remember because he was not telling the truth. That's the problem. The caller from Livingston is saying we should be thankful and we should appreciate where government has done good. And yet he fails to tell us where government has done good. He says if it was this drought, if it had happened before, we would have had a problem. People would have died. He must remember, maybe he has forgotten, that we used to have armyworms in the PF. I was minister in charge of disaster. That was even more severe. It threatened crops across the country more than this Kama drought that Mr. Kainde Chirema has been talking about right, left and center. But it was handled in a very prudent manner. So when you tell me that we should be grateful for load shedding us for 20 hours, I should be saying that they have worked. I should be grateful for making sure that our farmers are sharing fertilizer in Medas. I should be grateful. I should be grateful because fuel now is costing 34 kwacha, 35 kwacha per liter. I should be grateful. I should be grateful because the cost of living is gone high. I should be grateful. I think these are the simple things Zambians are talking about. And when he says, I'm not telling the truth here, let him say what lies I've told here. Let him tell me if indeed we are not being load shedded. Let him tell us if government is not selling power to other countries, because even the letter from the Minister of Energy, the minister admits himself. So it's not a question of saying Mr. Kalaba will not say anything good about the UPND. It's a question of saying what the UPND has done and what the UPND has not done. Period.
The best I could do is to hand this phone to you and let perhaps your secretariat take note of the messages. There are just too many. President Kalaba from across the nation, we didn't have time to read all of them. It's 10 p.m. and this is where we got a part company. Thank you for keeping your evening glued to KBN television, the finest television. Someone gave us a new a new strapline. We call ourselves the finest television. Someone says if it is not KBN, turn it off.
Turn it off.
Mr. President, thank you so much. We can only wish you all the best.
Thank you very much.
As you aspire to lead the people of Zambia.
Well, thank you very much, KBN, and I want to congratulate you on this platform for the great job that you are doing. Yours is not an easy undertaking, especially in an environment where you have a leadership that wants to stifle media houses such as yours who have been threatened before. But I can tell you that we'll stand with you as citizens first. We will ensure that if government tries to stifle your voice, the voice of the mass newspaper, and the voice of other innocent and hard-working media houses, I think it is our inescapable responsibility to stand up and say this is wrong. Obviously, the UPND has forgotten that they got into power because media houses such as yours were hosting them, were giving them a platform, and now they want to think that they came on the platform using ZNBC. Today they think ZNBC is theirs. Tomorrow when ZNBC will kick them out, because ZNBC kicks out, it kicked out UNIP, it kicked out MMD, it kicked out PF. What is so special about UPND that they will not kick them out? So it says ZNBC will always work with the government of the day. So they can show whatever they want to show, but I can tell you that you are doing a commendable job. Keep it up. Any Zambian who knows what we are going through, they are relying on you. Right now, I'm told, even in the prisons, I went to Chimbokaela to visit, I went to Mukobeko to visit my brothers, Chitotela, Chilangwa, who have been incarcerated in Mukobeko. I even went to this one in Mwembeshi to see GBM. By the way, GBM, I think President Akainde Hichilema, I think must exercise his prerogative of mercy on Mr. GBM and allow him to go and get his medical treatment. Mr. Hichilema will remember that the case that Mr. GBM has been convicted on, he still had that case when he was his vice president. You remember? And Mr. Akainde Hichilema was aware. That's how hypocritical that man is. Mr. Akainde Hichilema was aware that Mr. GBM had that issue. But he didn't talk about it. All he did was to get Mr. GBM's things, and he went around with Mr. GBM. When Mr. GBM changed camp, everything became bad. He's a user. And I think this thing must speak to even those people he's using today on the constitutional amendment process. He's smiling with you, he's telling you stories. Don't allow him to use you. He's just a user, and if you are going to fall for it, shawidako, it's your own fault. Forewarned is forearmed. So we are asking that Mr. GBM, if he cannot be given bail pending his appeal, let the president exercise his prerogative of mercy. You can't be so cold-hearted in the face of an ailing person like that. I think even people like Chagwa, people like Chitotela, they have all appealed. It is their constitutional right. Why they are not being given, only heaven knows better. People like Bowman Lusambo, they have appealed and they are not giving it to them. They are keeping them in jail. I think that is not the way it should happen. This country needs to heal. When I take over next year, I can assure Mr. Akainde Hichilema that he will have peace, a lot of peace, because a head of state must not be mistreated the way Edgar Lungu is being mismanaged. You shouldn't do that to a head of state. That's why these head of state, former presidents even get sick. Why do they get sick? It's because of the way you handle them after they leave office. Leaving office should not be an offense. When Mr. Hichilema leaves office next year, let us allow him peace and tranquility in his home. Mr. Lungu deserves to have peace and tranquility. But you keep on mistreating your colleagues, mistreating them as if they are common criminals. I don't support that. I'll never support that. We are Zambians first before we go to different political parties. So let peace reign in our country. That is the way it ought to be. Thank you for having me.
On that score, Thank you very much, our dear viewers. Unfortunately, we can't take in all your calls or read all the messages. To the Zambians watching us from across the nation, from across the world in the diaspora, those that have tuned in through Facebook and YouTube, thank you so much for your support. Until next time, the Lord keep you, and may the Lord watch over the boundaries of this nation. Shalom, shalom.